Ever wonder where all your money goes by the end of the month? You work hard, you earn, but somehow your savings barely grow. The culprit? Poor budgeting. Budgeting isn't just about cutting expenses. It's about taking control of your finances and making your money work for you. Without a solid budget, you risk overspending, drowning in debt, and missing out on financial goals. But don't worry, we've got you covered. In this video, we'll uncover the most common budgeting mistakes people make, and more importantly, how you can avoid them to build a secure financial future. Stay tuned because just a few small tweaks can make a big difference in your financial success. Mistake number 1. Putting wants before needs. Have you ever splurged on the latest smartphone while struggling to pay rent? Or maybe you treated yourself to an expensive dinner, only to realize later that your weekly grocery budget is gone. One of the biggest budgeting mistakes people make is prioritizing wants over needs. And let's be honest, temptation is everywhere. That new gadget, designer shoes, or even daily takeout can feel like a small indulgence. But over time, they add up, leaving you with little to cover the essentials. Think about it. What happens when you prioritize entertainment subscriptions, luxury purchases, or eating out over rent, bills, and savings? You might end up borrowing money, maxing out your credit cards, or even living paycheck to paycheck. So, how do you fix this? Next time you're about to buy something, ask yourself, is this a want or a need? Will this purchase bring me closer to my financial goals or push me further away? A good rule of thumb is to cover your needs first. Rent, utilities, groceries, savings, and then allocate a portion of your budget for wants. Financial freedom isn't about never enjoying life. It's about making smart choices so you can enjoy life without financial stress. Mistake number 2. Randomly setting spending categories. Have you ever tried budgeting but still felt like your money just disappeared? You set limits for groceries, entertainment, and shopping, but you're already overspending by the middle of the month. Sound familiar? That's because many people make the mistake of randomly setting spending categories without actually understanding their own financial habits. They throw numbers into a budget without tracking their real expenses first. And guess what? That almost always leads to failure. Let's say you budget $200 for groceries because that feels like the right number. But in reality, you spend closer to $350 every month. That missing $150, it doesn't just disappear. It throws your entire budget off, leaving you scrambling to cover other expenses. So, how do you fix this? First, track your spending for at least a month. Look at where your money is actually going. Then, create spending categories based on real data, not just guesses. If you're spending $350 on groceries, budget for that amount instead of setting an unrealistic $200. The key to a successful budget isn't just writing down numbers. It's making sure those numbers reflect your real financial life. Mistake number 3. Not tracking expenses. Have you ever checked your bank account and thought, wait, where did all my money go? You swear you haven't made any big purchases, but somehow your balance is way lower than you expected. If this has ever happened to you, chances are you're not tracking your expenses. Imagine going on a road trip without checking the fuel gauge. You might be cruising along, thinking everything's fine, until your car suddenly stops in the middle of nowhere. That's exactly what happens when you don't track your spending. You keep swiping your card, making small purchases here and there, until one day you realize you're broke. Let's say you grab a $5 coffee every morning. No big deal, right? But multiply that by 30 days. That's $150 a month. Add in a few takeout meals, impulse buys, and online subscriptions you forgot about. And suddenly, you've spent hundreds of dollars without even realizing it. Track every dollar you spend. Use a budgeting app, a spreadsheet, or even a simple notebook. When you see where your money is going, you'll be able to cut unnecessary expenses and take control of your finances. Mistake number 4. Setting unrealistic budget limits. You created a budget and thought, this time, I'm going to be super strict and save a ton of money. You cut your grocery budget in half, slash entertainment spending to zero, and tell yourself you'll never eat out again. But then, just a few weeks later, you're back to overspending and feeling like a failure. Sound familiar? This is one of the biggest budgeting mistakes people make. Setting budget limits that are way too unrealistic. Sure, spending only $50 on groceries or never going out with friends sounds great. But let's be real. Is that actually sustainable? Imagine you usually spend $400 a month on groceries and suddenly decide to budget only $150. At first, you try to make it work, buying cheap, skipping snacks. But within weeks, you run out of food and end up overspending. Now, instead of sticking to a budget, you feel discouraged and give up entirely. The solution? Be realistic. Look at your actual spending habits and gradually adjust. If you usually spend $400 on groceries, try reducing it to $350 first. If you love dining out, don't cut it out completely. Just set a reasonable limit. Budgeting isn't about extreme restrictions. It's about creating a plan that actually works for you. Mistake number 5. Forgetting to budget for irregular expenses. You are doing great with your budget until, boom! A surprise expense comes out of nowhere and wrecks everything. Maybe it's a car repair, an annual insurance bill, or even holiday shopping. Suddenly, you're scrambling for cash or swiping your credit card, completely throwing your budget off track. One of the biggest budgeting mistakes people make is planning only for their monthly expenses, like rent, groceries, and utilities, while completely forgetting about those irregular but inevitable costs. Let's say you own a car. You know that at some point, you'll need new tires, an oil change, or repairs. But because it's not a monthly expense, you don't budget for it. Then, when that $500 bill hits, it feels like a total financial emergency, when, in reality, it was 100% predictable. So how do you avoid this mistake? Simple. Create a sinking fund. Set aside a little money each month for these irregular expenses. If your car maintenance typically costs $600 a year, put away $50 a month. That way, when the expense comes, you're prepared. Mistake number 6. Not having an emergency fund. What would you do if you lost your job tomorrow? Or if your car broke down unexpectedly? Would you have enough savings to cover it? Or would you rely on credit cards, loans, or borrowing from friends? One of the biggest financial mistakes people make is not having an emergency fund. Life is unpredictable, and without a financial cushion, even a small setback can turn into a major crisis. So, how do you avoid this? Start small. Even saving just $20 a week adds up to over $1,000 a year. Ideally, aim for at least 3 to 6 months worth of living expenses. Keep this money in a separate account so you're not tempted to spend it. Would you be financially prepared if an emergency happened today? Let me know in the comments. Mistake number 7. Ignoring small expenses. Oh, it's just $5. It won't make a difference. Maybe it's a quick coffee run, a $3 app subscription, or grabbing a snack at the gas station. These small purchases seem harmless. But what if I told you they could be why you're struggling to save money? Your biggest budgeting mistake is ignoring small expenses. Individually, they don't seem like much, but when you add them up over time, they can drain your wallet without you even noticing. Mistake number 8. Relying too much on credit cards. How often do you swipe your credit card without thinking twice? Credit cards make spending effortless, whether it's groceries, gas, or a night out. But here's the real question. Are you actually keeping track of how much you owe? People rely too much on credit cards, thinking they can just pay it off later. The problem? Interest charges pile up, and before you know it, you're stuck in a cycle of debt. Suppose you put $1,000 on your credit card and only make the minimum payment each month. At an interest rate of 20%, it could take years to pay off that balance. And by the time you do, you'll have spent hundreds, if not thousands, in interest alone. How do you break free? First, treat your credit card like a debit card. Only spend what you can afford to pay off in full. Second, set a limit for credit card spending in your budget, and use cash or a debit card for everyday expenses to avoid unnecessary debt. Mistake number 9. Failing to adjust the budget regularly. Imagine if you never updated your phone or your apps. Over time, things would slow down. Glitches would pop up, and eventually, they wouldn't work how you need them to. Well, guess what? The same thing happens when you don't update your budget. People usually set a budget once and never adjust it. Life changes. Your income might go up or down, expenses fluctuate, and unexpected costs arise. If you don't update your budget, it stops working for you. So, you created a budget a year ago when you had a lower grocery bill and no gym membership. Fast forward to today. You've started eating healthier, joined a gym, and maybe even picked up a new subscription service. If you don't adjust your budget to reflect these changes, you'll constantly feel like you're overspending, even when you're just covering your actual needs. Review your budget at least once a month. Look at what's working and what's not, and make adjustments. Maybe you need to cut back on dining out to cover rising grocery costs or increase your savings because of a raise. A budget should evolve with your lifestyle, not stay frozen in time. Mistake number 10. Not being flexible. Ever tried following a strict diet plan, only to give up after a few days because it was too restrictive? The same thing happens with budgeting. If your budget is too rigid, it's only a matter of time before you abandon it completely. If you think a budget is set in stone, then you are wrong. Life is unpredictable. Expenses change. Unexpected opportunities arise. And sometimes you just need a little wiggle room. How do you stay flexible without losing control? Simply, add a miscellaneous or fun money category to your budget. Even setting aside just 5 to 10% of your income for unexpected expenses can make a big difference in staying on track without feeling deprived. Mistake number 11. Not prioritizing savings. What would you do if you had to choose between saving money or paying bills? Most people would say, I'll save whatever's left after my expenses. But here's the problem. There's usually nothing left. People treat savings as an afterthought. When you don't prioritize savings, it's easy to keep pushing it off month after month. And before you know it, years have passed with little to no money set aside. How do you avoid this mistake? Make savings non-negotiable. Set up an automatic transfer to your savings account as soon as you get paid. Whether it's 5%, 10%, or even just $20. Start small and increase as you go. Mistake number 12. Forgetting fun money. Have you ever started a budget feeling super motivated, only to give up a few weeks later because it felt too restrictive? If so, you might be making one of the biggest budgeting mistakes, forgetting to budget for fun. A budget isn't just about paying bills and saving money. It should also include room for enjoyment. When you cut out all entertainment, dining out, or hobbies, budgeting feels like a punishment rather than a plan for financial freedom. And let's be honest, how long can you actually stick to a budget that makes you miserable? Set aside a small percentage of your income, maybe 5 to 10%, just for fun. Whether it's a coffee date with your wife, a concert, or a short trip, this money ensures you enjoy life while staying on track with your financial goals. Mistake number 13. Overestimating income. Have you ever made plans based on money you thought you'd have, only to realize later that it never actually came? If so, you've fallen into the trap of overestimating your income. Many people make the mistake of budgeting based on their expected income rather than their actual income. This can lead to overspending, financial stress, and a constant feeling of, where did all my money go? Jake is a freelancer who earns around $5,000 in a good month, so he creates a budget, assuming he'll make that much every month. But some months, his income drops to $3,500, and suddenly, his budget doesn't work. He's forced to dip into savings or rely on credit cards to cover his expenses. If Jake had based his budget on his lowest consistent income instead of his best-case scenario, he could have avoided this cycle of stress. Base your budget on your lowest predictable income, not your highest. And if you do make extra money, great. You can put it towards savings, investments, or a little extra fun money. Mistake number 14. Impulse spending. You walked into a store for just one thing and walked out with a cart full of stuff you didn't plan to buy. Or maybe you saw a sale online and thought, I have to get this deal, only to regret it later? That's impulse spending at its finest. Impulse spending is one of the fastest ways to ruin a budget. One unplanned purchase here, another one there, and suddenly your bank account looks much emptier than you expected. The worst part? Most of these purchases aren't even things we need. They're things we want at the moment. Try the 24-hour rule. If you see something you want but don't plan for, wait 24 hours before buying it. If you still want it the next day and it fits your budget, go for it. But most of the time, you'll realize you don't actually need it. Alright, we've covered some of the biggest budgeting mistakes that could drain your wallet. Now the question is, how many of these mistakes have you been making? And more importantly, which one are you going to fix first? Drop a comment below. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Remember, budgeting isn't about restricting yourself. It's about giving yourself the freedom to spend wisely, save intentionally, and build your desired future. So start small, stay consistent, and watch your finances transform. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to hit that like button. It really helps support the channel. And if you want more tips on managing your money and improving your financial future, subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss an upload. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.